It's time to huddle up. It's the Turf District Podcast. Welcome back to the Turf District, where we huddle up and talk all things Double E football. And we are a part of the Alberta Podcast Network. And of course, they are locally grown, community supported, I should say that properly. And of course, we are also a part of the, let's go to here, CFPN, the Canadian Football Podcast Network. I am your host, Andrew. Thank you for joining us. As always, we're excited to have you in the Turf District with us tonight. We have a really fun show planned for you with lots of fun things to talk about. But first, I will bring in my co-host for the evening. It is the one and only Superfan Mike. Very nice.
Gotta get the jazz hands in
That's wonderful. It's wonderful. We got all brand new transitions going on because Tyler once again. Tyler is just like on fire. He's got new stuff for us. He's got new transitions. He's got all new intros with the proper logos. And he's like, you guys keep doing it and put up the wrong logo because you're a loser. So I'm going to get this proper for you. So he sends it to me and we get this all sorted out.
So Tyler. Yeah.
It is so Tyler. That's right. But let me tell you, Mike, we have one of our favorite guests on to chat. Lots of Edmonton football, everything that's going on in the city. From TSN 1260, it is the one and only Dave Jameson. How are you?
It's great. I'm good, and I'm better now that I'm seeing you guys and chatting with you again. It's been far too long, and I miss the experience of going down to. It's Turf District, right? So yes. When you get down there and you get fully immersed, and for me, it's a big part of my life to go down there and see a lot of familiar faces and images and stuff like that. But this is the next best thing. We can do it remotely, but I'll live vicariously looking at all the stuff behind you.
Yeah, well, especially Mike. His is outstanding. You were the one that bathed us in the marinating in green and gold, which is really what we like to do. And we absolutely love to have you on because
thank you.
You got so much history and you're so fun to talk to. But the first question that I have for you is, have you practiced your best wrestling interview voice so that you're ready for the New World Order League that's coming, or is it just no? Let's get into it right away. Obviously, the big news that's coming over this past week is talking about the CFL and the XFL in talks to try and work together to grow the game of football. And there's tons that we're going to unpack on the podcast, but I just want to get some gut reactions first. Dave, what was your first reaction when you heard that was going on?
Well, when my producer called me, Matthew Awanek, I want to get his name in there and a shout out. He said, "Have you seen what's happening have you seen the announcement?" We were getting, I think we got a 3 Down Nation sort of nudge on Twitter, and then the official release followed in the CFL and the XFL and so on and so forth. And then the story tumbled. And my first reaction was to message Farhan Lalji from Vancouver of TSN. And I said, have you seen this, and what is your first reaction, just as you've asked me? My first reaction was, okay. I wasn't opposed to it, and as we get into this conversation, I think that my gut was, oh, it's the XFL. And now you got to remember that the XFL, the first iteration of it, was what it was. It was He Hate Me and all that Rod Smart.
Everybody says that one first.
It was everything you know it to be. And if you haven't seen the 30-30 doc, go check it out. It's worth your time. Okay, now we're into 2.0, and it's a standard football league with some changes and wrinkles and presentation things to make it appealing and to fit the gap, if you think there is a gap in the football calendar where Americans, let's call it what it is, Americans needed that void to be filled. Okay. Right. But it looked to me, and I watched a few games. I was like probably a lot of you watching this, and you guys, I checked in on the first few games and fell in love with the St. Louis Battlehawks and was Seattle Dragons and all that good stuff. And then the weeks went on, I went, this isn't terribly compelling. There were some good players. Yeah. We know who they are, and they were memorable, some of them. And then I thought, okay, well, and then we know what happened from there. And the pandemic, took all of that stuff away. So when I saw the news, it was, oh, well, this is intriguing. What does it mean? And then when the official announcement came, it was an announcement to say they're talking about talking.
Yeah, exactly.
So there really wasn't any meat on the bone. And what was interesting was after it dropped, we got in touch with the Canadian Football League, and my producer, Matthew, said, well, let's get Randy on the phone. That's what we do. So we put in a request, and they said, sure. And we thought, wow, that is fast. Like, the commissioner of the Canadian Football League is like, within minutes, is going to come on the show in Edmonton, which is nice and fine. And then you saw the story get traction and start to unfold and became this kind of fast-moving, relatively speaking, fast-moving thing that took over the news cycle. And so we ultimately didn't get the commissioner on the phone, which didn't matter ultimately because there really wasn't anything in the announcement from either side, from the XFL.
No, not really. Yeah.
Or Randy Ambrosie. It was great, The Rock on Instagram, and that's fine, and everybody gets quite excited. But the essence of it was they had just were really kind of, it was a shot across the bow, if you will, saying, hey, we're talking. 2 football leagues that are kind of on the fringe, no disrespect intended to the CFL or the XFL, but just anything outside the NFL is you're on the fringe. So the way I looked at it was, oh, I'm intrigued. But mark me down as intrigued. But
excellent.
Maybe they anticipated this, but not to the degree that maybe they should have, was people immediately go to the extreme, which was, oh, my God, we are going to 3 or 4 downs. We're going to a smaller field. We're getting rid of the Rouge. We are going to scrub the CFL of all of its history, and we're going to become NFL light, right? That's kind of, that's where my listeners and callers and texters went on the show. And it's interesting because people get, even some, I'm assuming that not everybody who gets, texts a sports radio show has been to a CFL game or a bunch of them, but they get very, very protective of the Canadian Football League. It was a really interesting thing to see play out.
Right. And maybe it is that word, like it's the Canadian football. It's one of those things that is just ours, and that's why people get protective. And I'm not saying that's wrong. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that I can understand a little bit of that. Superfan, what was your gut reaction?
Well, actually, this is the first time I've heard of it.
Okay, that's perfect.
No.
Okay.
I thought, yeah.
You're just waking up.
This is all brand new. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What's XFL?
Yeah.
The first thing I thought of was when I first saw the release, they were talking together, and that's it. I thought, oh, that could be kind of interesting. And then I made the conscious choice to go on social media and see what his reaction was.
Don't read the comments. Do we not talk about this every week?
Yeah. And it exploded. And people were talking about a merger. And I thought, did I read the wrong release? Or
no.
Look at it. And then people were saying, well, it has to be because, why else would they talk about it? And I'm like, because it's the off season, so we need something to talk about. So it's a little teaser, right?
Yeah.
They're talking. Yeah. But what? Obviously, The Rock has his CFL background back in the mid '90s when he was on the practice squad in that other city that doesn't need to be named. And of course, we've had certainly a lot of people that went back and forth between the XFL and here. Our coach from last year was the first draft pick of the XFL 1.0 in 2001, with Milanovic being the first overall draft pick. So there's certainly a lot of connections. I thought, that'd be kind of interesting. But yeah, the comments went absolutely crazy and went to complete extremes. Right. And I was just like, okay, we don't have to panic, like running around screaming,
it's not the end of the world.
People do. And it's like, okay, let's just get some more news before we start going this crazy. But I mean, even today, it hasn't abated. It's still going crazy.
I will say this, as somebody who, is in the business of the daily grind of sports talk radio and someone who was in the CFL for 14 years and so on and so forth, I'm not sure I can remember something that has been as enduring as the conversation of the CFL and the XFL in terms of what this league has done. And there will be significant player signings. They're kind of passed over quickly.
Right.
When the season shut down, I don't think it had this kind of shelf life in terms of a topic that people will still engage on. I mean, we will have things on TSN 1260 where, the Edmonton football team,
good recovery. That was good.
Put a fine jar out for me tonight. Where they will have a big game or something significant happen. It doesn't last as long as this story. Now, none of that may ultimately matter if nothing happens, if this is unconsummated love, if you will, if it's something that I don't know where this, and I'm not sure Randy Ambrosie knows, and I'm not sure The Rock, and I know there's other people, it's The Rock, but The Rock is the guy for the XFL. If anybody truly knows where it goes or is going, but it's intriguing. That at the end of the day, I mean, but you need more than just intrigue to build a business model and build something that's sustainable and workable. And, are we going to look at a Grey Cup between, and I'm sorry, I don't know, other than the Dragons and the Battlehawks, I always...
The Battlehawks are the only ones that matter anyway. So it's
Are they going to meet in the Grey Cup against the Canadian side? I don't know. I just don't know.
Now, so if nothing else, we can say that it already had an impact in the fact that people have been talking about it. And I was going to wait for the podcast, but I'm going to say, because it makes sense here, is that when I was driving into work the next morning and had Now Radio on, who they never talk about the CFL. No. It was the second story talking, and only the one of the three hosts knows anything about the CFL, but they were talking about it. And I thought, wow, okay, well, even if nothing happens, the impact has already happened.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing.
Now, do you think this would have been nearly as big of a story had there not been a pandemic and the 2020 season wiped?
Probably not.
I'm not even.
Well,
sure.
it's actually no. It would still be. It'd still be big. Maybe not to the same.
But it would be because we have had nothing really significant to talk about in football for over a year.
But here's the other thing: if there was no pandemic and it was business as usual, and that isn't to say that the CFL wasn't without its issues, and both you gentlemen and our viewers and listeners will know that there were things pre-existing before COVID-19.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that we would be having the conversations to the degree they are. I mean, Randy Ambrosie's vision of CFL 2.0, global vision, okay, that's fine, and they were working on that. Now, this feels the conversation with the XFL as if it's and I'm not really sure where the lifeline, who's throwing the lifeline to whom on this. You've got the CFL with deep historic roots. I mean, it's a bedrock of the Canadian sporting landscape. And you got XFL 2.0 that's all of 8 minutes old? Right. So who's saving whom here? The Rock has got the marquee value,
yes,
which he does, and I'm not disputing that. And there's the Redbird investment thing that, financial behemoth there. But what does the XFL truly have? I mean, they bought that league for $15 million. That's not a lot of money. It is to me. I mean, I'm sure to you guys. It's not like.
I wish that was not a lot of money to me. Yes, but I get what you're saying.
What is the XFL? And they don't have a history to draw on other than it was a startup league, and it has a very famous investor/owner. And I don't want to be dismissive because it could be the thing that allows the CFL to return and be reinvigorated and all of those things. But the CFL's got, I don't want to equate it to a Hudson's Bay or something, but where I'm like, it's got the length, the depth. However, you can only surf on that for so long before somebody says, yeah, but how are you paying the bills?
Right.
How are you making this work?
Legitimacy, but that doesn't necessarily
sure. Rent. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait to talk about this more on the pod. We have lots. I'm gonna bring it up more on there, but I wanted to get a couple of your other opinions on here, Dave, on stuff that we've talked over the last few weeks. The team name. Obviously, you were part of the team with the old name, and I know for the three of us that are sitting in this virtual room that name. We understand the change, but we also are connected to the name. We've all had our own grieving processes, and now we're trying to move forward and get to what's new. What is your choices, or what did you think of the choices that were out there?
Well, I don't have the entire list in front of me. I thought a few seemed like red herrings, like look over here at something weird.
Evergolds?
But but over here, I mean, honestly, would you call a football team name it after a shrub? Probably not. Probably not.
I said fern, but shrub is good. I like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
But all of that might work in Oregon or, down the West Coast somewhere, but not I know we like our greenery and the river valley is awesome, but I'm not sure that a shrub is going to, I think I tweeted at the time, the only way I want Evergolds to be a thing is if the players have to run out of a thicket of trees instead of, the old entrance, which was an igloo, and we know all of that stuff. But anyhow, all of that said, I mean, Eagles is easy. And I've seen eagles here, so it's not, I mean, I don't know how many eagles are actually in the city of Philadelphia. I've never been there, but I can't imagine there's a lot like buzzing over, downtown Philly.
Right.
But somebody has it and it's fairly well known and they've kind of got the market cornered, at least professionally, on that. So I think you could do something with Elks, just in terms of like kind of a Milwaukee Bucks treatment on the logo and something, but anyhow. But I also know the constraints are financial. And that's why, and here's where I struggle with the old, we'll keep the double E, we'll keep the colors, which are fantastic, and they are my favorite, my favorite sports teams are the team I work for, the California Golden Seals, the Oakland Athletics.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So I'm a card-carrying member of this color combo. But that said, I wonder, and again, I understand the financial implications. A rebrand and all of that stuff is terribly expensive.
Sure is.
And this is not a good time to do that. So I get it from that perspective. But if the long play on this is it's the double E for now, and maybe they introduce a secondary mark that gets morphed into more of what you see, okay, then I'm intrigued on a level. I also see it as an opportunity if they were going to go with a clean break. Don't keep the colors, but really break and drop the double E as we know it, because that carries good history, great history. And so I mean, I'm not immune. I did, of the 14 years I was there, I did the marketing as well for 12 of the 14 years. So, I know Mike loves the magnetic schedules I
do.
worked on, but you had to worry about the brand.
Yeah.
And it's iconic, even though the current Double E logo, I think, came in, Mike, correct me, you got both, Andrew, 97 or 96? No, okay. And then we know the Double E, I think, came in the 60s, right? That the interlocking
65.
Double E on 65 on the helmet and so on. So, I mean, so it's got deep roots, but it's, it doesn't go back to, 1949 or even before. But all of that said, I think, I just wonder if in 2021 the interlocking E's are something that would interest, a younger fan that they may be trying to go after. And I get it. It's not just about the logo. It's all of the touch points you have in a sporting brand and the language you use and all of those things. So, yeah, I've got lots of questions. I mean, I'm really intrigued by it. I know Express is out there. I think that, or Energy, I think is Energy in the mix.
It wasn't in the mix still, but they did just register it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So
Energy and Elks got ready, but I mean, it takes like up to 3 years to register a trademark.
And fact of the matter is,
who knows when
they registered all the other 7 names when they came out. So,
yeah.
So, I mean, I think we're on the same page as you. It's like, okay, well, we can totally see where you get somewhere with Elk or Elks. And, but again, we've also said, like, wait till it's the right time, have some merch to go with it and launch it as we're getting into, okay, we got to be ready for football, right? Like, that makes sense to me.
Well, the bigger question, and not to take you off the question you've asked me, is, are we going to have a season?
That was my next question.
Like, I'm more interested. My energy is, are they going to play?
Right.
And whether they come out as Elks, Elk Hounds, Evergolds, whatever it's going to be, I'm really more concerned for all of the teams, but certainly the one here is whether or not they're going to see the field. And that's not to be dismissive of the other thing, because a rebrand is not easy, and I'm not suggesting that it's simple. And I really get, and I've heard even from some colleagues, like, why don't they just get the name out there? Well, get it done right.
Yeah.
To the best of your ability, and then proceed in a logical fashion. But the bigger questions are, will this league return to play?
Absolutely. So would you say it doesn't matter what the name is? No, that was totally a wrestling thing. Yeah. Anyway, I couldn't resist throwing some type of rock reference in there. Okay. Last question for the YouTube Live. Do you think there's ever a possibility that the league plays 2 or 3 games without any fans, or do you think that would just be right off the table?
Wow, what's off the table in a pandemic? Yeah,
fair.
I'm not being facetious. Like, I don't know is there any bad ideas I guess that we know that there are some bad ideas.
We're aware of a
anything
couple
that violates the prevailing science and proper medical health information would be a bad idea in my estimation. But that said, I think it unlikely. And this is not the place to insert a joke about the Toronto Argonauts and attendance there, about no fans. I think all teams and all of their markets are worthy of, respect on this. But, Commonwealth, you could certainly have and probably it's not, I'm going to pull a number, 10,000, 12,000, whatever. And you could do it in a way that was socially distanced and all of that. But things are moving rapidly. Maybe not as fast as we would like in terms of what we can do, can't do, and where are we in? Remind me, early June, or
mid-May?
Kind of mid-June
is kind of when training camp.
Mid-May,
training camp,
all that good stuff. You got a border.
Yeah.
You got to remember, the talent, the good chunk of the talent's coming from south. That's a challenge. The Canadian Football League is so unique, right? I mean, it's just in not just the rules and people think, but that it gathers or draws a real large number of players from down south, right? So now this whole thing is tested in a way it's never been tested before. So, for me to say, should they, could they, will they play with limited fans? It's early. I don't think so, because to this point, I think based on the conversations I've had with both CFL people and and representatives of CFLPA, is they're going to adhere very, very closely to the protocols laid out by the local authorities and obviously the national ones.
Mm-hmm. Okay, makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. All right, we've got a couple of things that I'm going to show off tonight because I've taken over for it's like my horde. I don't know. That sounds horrible. Anyway, I have a couple. I got a fancy new gift from one super fan, Mike, and people who know me and listen to this show will know how much I appreciate this. Look at this beauty.
Oh,
look at that. That is.
Oh, come on now.
Signed by Singor. It's got, that's the look of intensity right there. Let me tell you.
Okay, you guys will know this. I don't know if that part, it may have been a different photo. It might have been that one. We used it for the marketing campaign. It was just his eyes, and you could see, and it was on billboards. And I'm
I think that's right.
Dale McMillan took that photo. Dale McMillan, the team photographer, who's so talented. And I just talked to Singor a few months ago, and I think that is the photo that we used to create the billboards you saw around. You just saw his eyes.
That was 03, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right, Mike. And it was, buy your tickets, $99, all that stuff. And it was really cool. Really cool. And God, you know what? One of my
I'm going to go back and search
wax philosophic on Singor. There were so many great players that I got to be around in the 14 years I was there. But I'm not a football player in the 360-degree sense who could do anything on a football field. I mean, he kicked off one game.
Yeah.
He returned kicks in a game. Like there was a game, and you guys and Mike, I always defer to you. We were playing Winnipeg, and he defend the turf. Thank you. That's okay. Maybe a different shot, but you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Where they played Winnipeg, and at the end of the night, and he was baked, just cooked, and they'd used him on. I'm pulling a number, 70% of the plays, because he played all the defense. They put him in on offense, and they put him in on teams. And I remember going up to him after the game, and he was just like, he was a great athlete. So he always, and had a hot motor, could run all night. And I went to him and I said, I know you're probably wondering if you're going to get a little extra on your paycheck this week. I don't like your chances. And he was just sort of, I kind of figured as much. It is the CFL, come for less, right? But he worked like he was, when they say a guy was everywhere on the night, you're like, no, actually, this guy was.
Yeah.
It's
like old school, right? When they used to play.
Yeah.
When he now, of course, we've talked about this many times, but 27 is my favorite number because Marco Sincar. And I remember when Singor came and donned the 27, and I thought, well, this is a guy I got to watch. Mm-hmm. And man, was I ever happy he was wearing that number, because holy cow. And he's the first guy that I ever had a jersey with the name on it, the numbers in the name, and he signed it. And so this picture is amazing. I love it. And
one of the hardest hitters, one of the hardest workers. And when I've talked to Mobes, I said, Mobes, I was always impressed because we play a game, let's say on a Friday night. And he wasn't afraid of, Joey's on Jasper later. And it's not for me to judge on when the night would end. But we would have rundown on the Saturday back at Commonwealth. Usually around 2:00 to allow people to come in, get treatment and whatever. And they would run, there'd be a rundown, and then maybe they would run, some a little more high intensity stuff. And it was just running, it was to get the lactic acid going. And I'm telling you, Singor Mobley was the hardest working guy. Like, he kept so many people accountable. And there were more times than I remember where he would go, JMO, here's my credit card. So we'd have it set up either at Jimmy Ray's or over at the Italian Center, and forgetting the name of the place across the street over in Little Italy. And I would, after the guys had done their practice, and he would say, take a credit card, we've got an order waiting for us. And Singor would ask the defense, and he would pay, and he would ask the defense to stay around and they do extra film. And like, it was not, I mean, it didn't happen all the time, but if there was a big game coming and he would say, I got to bring in some snacks, and I would go get it and leave it for the guys. And it was all led by him. Like, he was, there's a reason he was 3 years with the Cowboys.
Wow. That's amazing. Holy cow. I knew you'd come up with a good story, which is fantastic.
Always is.
The other thing that I wanted to show this evening, you might see that I'm wearing this fancy new shirt. We have our brand new shirts. Wait, there we are. Look at these. Ooh, look at those. Hey.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yes, thank you, Tyler, again for the logo, because that is outstanding. And we had to work on it a bit to make that pop, but with that black outline, it looks pretty cool.
Fantastic.
And so we've decided we wanted to do something a little different with the t-shirts this time. So t-shirts are $25, but 10 of those dollars are going into the Dwayne Mandrusiak Legacy Fund for Amateur Football.
Nice.
If you are interested, get in touch with us. We have a fire trucker ton of them, and so make sure
all sizes.
All sizes, anything from extra small all the way up to 3XL. So get in touch with us. We'll get you the shirt, and then we're gonna donate that money to the fund at the end. So because Dwayne obviously means a lot to all of us that are on this call, and so I want to support that for sure. So and we'll get into some Dwayne stories when we get on the podcast, because I'm sure you have one or two, Dave.
Oh, yeah, just a few. Yeah.
Just a couple, exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And, of course, we'll have the full podcast later in the week. Tell everyone where they can find you on Media Sphere so that they can follow all of your wonderful things.
Sure. But yes, if you feel so inclined, at Jameson 1260, that's JAMIESON 1260, the Dave Jameson Show. We spent a lot of time on the title of that. It took us forever. And it's noon to 2, Monday to Friday on TSN 1260 in Edmonton. And this is a solemn pledge. Yes, we do a lot of Oilers because we have to and we should, but we also mix in a generous helping team, Canadian Football League, as we should, and a lot of other good stuff. So look for us there. And occasionally I'll tweet some weird stuff that makes no sense, but makes me giggle.
Makes me giggle too. Yeah.
Branding is hard, according to Bill Clinton.
Yeah. That's awesome. Superfan, where does everybody find you?
They can find me at 56 Parkies. We are working on a rebrand of the history segment, and that should be coming out hopefully in the next month.
Fantastic. And of course, you can follow the commissioner at Duchess Lombardi, and you can follow the show everywhere on all of the social media at the Turf District. That is Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We've got all of those things there, and that's where you can message us to get your fancy new Turf District shirt. With, again, $10 of that going towards the Dwayne Mandrusiak Legacy Fund for Amateur Football. The show should be out tomorrow. You can find us on all the places that you find podcasts. If you could help us out at all by sharing the link, letting some people know, because obviously with our name change and doing a new RSS feed, we've lost a few people from listening. So help us out. Leave a review. Make sure that you kind of help us out to help people find the show. And it's free. You don't have to do anything for that. Just share. Nice and easy. Excellent. Thank you again, Dave. I can't wait to talk to you more and get more stories out of you as always. We're looking forward to seeing everybody in a couple of weeks back here. Otherwise, of course, you will see the show this week. So remember, you can't catch football with your face, and we will absolutely talk to you in 2 weeks.